Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to Whiskey Wanders. And of course, as always, I want to start off by saying thank you to all you whiskey lovers out there who watch these videos of me doing some whiskey shopping at Costco. I really appreciate it. It's amazing to see our little but growing whiskey channel continue to gain people and to gain subscribers. It's just pretty amazing and great to see. So again, thank you. Also, I know your time is valuable, so I really appreciate you spending it here with me and with us and with all the whiskey too. So today I rolled up on a really random Costco in Livermore, California, which seems like, it seems like a pretty nice area. I don't know much about it. It's kind of something that I think you normally would just kind of pass through. But I will tell you that when it comes to Japanese whiskey, I hit the mother load because maybe it was just the timing or the stars aligning or it was my day, but I don't know what it was, but I came across one of the unicorns of the Japanese whiskey world, at least here in the US, which is the Yamazaki 12 at pretty much the best price you're ever going to find it at. So it just happened that I was passing through the area, the Livermore area, and the wife and I, we decided to stop for some gas and check out their whiskey selection while I was getting gas, and we just got crazy balls lucky. They're just really, truly, they have some rather amazing whiskeys here at this Costco, which you'll see. Maybe it's sort of a low-key Costco that has some pretty amazing whiskeys. But I think we're going to expose it on this one. Sorry, Livermoreans, for putting your Costco on blast. But you know what? Whiskey, I think, should be for the people. So, you can't, it's hard to keep these things hidden for forever. And I don't know if you should hide them. But that being said, stay away from my Costco whiskey gold mine. It's okay. You can come down too. Anyways, in addition to having the Yamazaki 12, they have one of the newer entrants into the rye arena, which is this wild Turkey Rare Breed Rye, and some very special low production scotch out of Singleton, or Diageo, I guess is the larger company. But this is the Singleton 19, which is part of the 2022 special release out of Diageo. So either way, this visit was a great visit, and I know that pretty much anytime I stop in NorCal now again, I'm going to have to make a pass through Livermore. Now, before we get to though, if you like these videos, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get notified when my newest videos get put up. So thanks again one last time. Now let's get down to it. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the one whiskey that I'm most excited about, which you should be able to tell by now, which is this Yamazaki 12. Now, there are whiskeys at Costco, and then there are whiskeys at Costco. And the distinction between the two is kind of the mundane type of whiskey, the one that we all know and love, and is usually pretty readily available. Things like Johnny Walker Black, Woodford Reserve, Oban 14, Balvenie, Maker's Mark, those kinds of whiskeys, which are good. But then there are those whiskeys that come out of Costco ever so often that essentially stop you in your tracks. And basically you just have to sprint to the front of the store to buy them before anybody else does. Because honestly, truly, they go just that quick. I mean, for reals, look, I got proof. Take a look. I didn't realize it at the time, but these other guys were also searching for the Yamazaki 12 as well. And luckily, I just happened to find it and get to the front before them and get the last two bottles. So, sorry guys, better luck next time. We've all kind of been there, and well, eventually the shoe will be on the other foot for sure. Another one would be Blanton's like that. But this Yamazaki is another one, especially up north, for whatever reason, that it just goes so fast. Now, specifically for this Yamazaki, I talked to the liquor manager there, and he said that he got a pallet of 55 of these Yamazaki 12, and within basically a few hours, they were all gone but these last two. One for me, and one for the wife. Now, before you call this hoarding, buying two, I don't think it is, because one, it's only two bottles, and two, I'm not certain she's going to share it with me. She might just keep this one for herself and, not let me drink any of it. So I don't think it's hoarding necessarily. Now, I'm not sure how word got out about this whiskey, but, the whiskey seagulls, they were circling this Costco like no other. And when stuff like this or Blanton's gets put out, it turns truly into a feeding frenzy. But this one was one that I'm really excited to try because, well, it was the first whiskey outside of the normal Jim, Jack, and Johnny that I ever recognized as a unique and interesting whiskey that was available at Costco. It was a perfect time in my life when I finally had enough disposable income to buy whiskey that wasn't by the liter. And when I realized, you know what? There's more to whiskey than simply trying to get drunk. That was in 2018. And at the time, they had a bottle of Hakushu 12 and the Yamazaki 12 both for sale side by side, which makes sense because they're from Suntory. But at the time, I also only had enough money to buy one, so I made a kind of a flip of a coin decision, and I bought the Hakushu, just one bottle. But basically for the last 4 years, I've been wondering myself, should I have bought the Yamazaki instead? And finding it has been next to impossible. This is the first time I've seen it since that last time in real life, and the ability to buy it at a reasonable price. So I'm really happy I got it. Enough story time. Let's talk about the Yamazaki 12. So first things first, in case you're wondering, it is a true Japanese whiskey. It's distilled, it's barreled, and it's bottled all in Japan. It's produced by Suntory, which is one of the oldest and well-established whiskey makers in Japan, established in 1899 by Tori Shinjiro, and is based out of Osaka, Japan right now. That's where their headquarters is. But ironically, it is also the overlord to Beam Suntory. It's the partner in that. So they are, the same people who make Jim Beam, and so basically are the distant cousins of the bourbons that many of us Americans love. Bakers, Bookers, Jim Beam, Basil Hayden, and the list goes on. This is the flagship of Yamazaki, the Yamazaki 12, and it first became available in the United States in 1984, which we must say was a momentous year for Americans everywhere. And it uses an aging process that includes Spanish, American, or ex-bourbon, and Mizunara oak barrels, and it's composed of 100% malted barley. And they also ferment the wash, which is the thin kind of beer-type liquid that comes out during the early distillation process. And they put it in the wooden washback for a longer period than usual, giving it a creamy, luxurious texture. Also, interestingly enough, Suntory has 2 twin distilleries that each produce their own highly sought-after whiskeys. This one, the Yamazaki 12, and, surprise, surprise, the Hakushu 12 as well, which sorta totally makes sense. Okay, so the cost here at Costco that we can see is at a very reasonable price of $99.99. Now, I say reasonable because I'm ignoring the ridiculous street and liquor store prices that command prices as high as $400 a bottle on the high side. And, if you can find it on the lower side, which I did, you can find it at Bevmo. You can find it priced at Bevmo. It's not for sale at Bevmo at $129.99. So that means if you do buy it at Costco, you'll be getting around $30 in cash in savings, or 23.8% over the Bevmo price. Now, realistically, if you can find it for anything less than maybe $140, it's still definitely worth picking up one. But at $99.99, you'd want to get as many bottles as they let you get, because you may not honestly find it for that price in multiple years. And there's also inflation and all that other stuff too. Okay, so the ABV on it is at 43%, so it's definitely not heavy-handed with the alcohol content. And the tasting notes describe it as thin to medium mouthfeel, some heat, lots of vanilla, some walnuts, apples and pears, buttery graham, malt, citrus peels, hay, spice, and orange Circus peanuts, which are disgusting and delicious all at the same time. But for me, that flavor actually came across when I tried it as rock candy that is dissolving in your mouth. I think that's how I would describe that kind of sweetness that lasts till the end. Now, the reviews on the Yamazaki 12 come out to 89.75 points, which I think is underselling it. Personally, I'd probably put it to low to mid 90s, maybe a 93, but then again, I am biased. And so for me, this was a buy. This is a buy some for now. This is a buy some for later. And if you can, buy it as much as often as you can, because you never know when you're actually going to see it again. And you're definitely going to regret not buying enough of it, like I have the first time and even this time as well. So you'll regret not buying more if you can. All right, now after all that fawning over the Yamazaki 12, I know. When I get a chance to review the tapes, I got a chance to run down the game film, and I noticed there's actually another really interesting whiskey from a familiar brand, but an unfamiliar type of whiskey, which is this Wild Turkey Rare Breed Rye. It caught my eye because I'm not a huge Wild Turkey drinker in general, but this one, it looks kind of different, almost like something you'd find in a bar or a fancy hunting lodge, or let's say a hunting lodge themed steakhouse kind of thing. This, from what I could find, is a relatively new release out of Wild Turkey, who traditionally has stuck to their whiskeys and bourbon lines, but with this recent influx, a huge influx of rye drinkers and a return to a rye that is beloved as an American spirit, Wild Turkey has come out with this one. Now, this one is composed of straight rye whiskey that is between the ages of 4 and 8 years old. It's non-filtered and bottled at barrel proof. The mash bill on it is at 51 37% rye and 37% corn and 12% malted barley. This is another one that after reading the reviews and checking it out online, you know what, I wish I would have picked one of these up, or maybe even two. I guess that's the same for most whiskeys. But it seems like this one would have a nice addition to the collection, because I don't actually have much rye at this point, and it's kind of a blind spot in my whiskey tasting palate. Now here at Costco in Livermore, you can see that the cost of Wild Turkey Rare Breed is set at $46.99, which seems like a very reasonable price for what is a luxury tier whiskey. Now, I couldn't find it for sale at Bevmo, but I did find it at my local liquor store at $59.99, as well as at Total Wine for a bit more at $62.49. So that means that if you do end up buying it at Costco, you'll be getting a savings of $13 in cash, or 21.67% over the local liquor store, and even more in comparison to what it would cost at Total Wine and more. The ABV on this one is notable at 55.5%. So you'll definitely want to have, you don't want to have it with a meal, maybe a nice steak or a meatloaf or something real heavy to keep the ABV from overpowering you, especially if it's early in the night. Or again, I guess this could also be a nice end of night kind of drink, a knockout punch, should we say. But needless to say, it's got a kick to it. The tasting notes on the Wild Turkey Rare Breed mention flavors of toffee, rye spice, brown sugar, sourdough, and a strong burn. The reviews on it are pretty generous, giving it 91.67 points out of 100, which I think is exceptional and is really part of the reason why I wish I would have picked some more of it up, or picked any of it up. I guess just hopefully all I have to do is cross my fingers and hope that there are going to be some of it down here in LA. Also, there are comments that say the excessive alcohol burn, or the aggressive alcohol burn, is a bit overpowering and distracting from the underlying variety of flavors that are available, and it can even make it seem a bit one-noted if you're not specifically looking for the other flavors. So, in conclusion, I think this one's going to be a buy. I wish I would have bought it, but, just going to have to wait till next time. Okay, so this last one is actually really, really interesting. It's sort of expensive, and the bottle is really colorful and interesting, and I actually ended up picking up one of these on this trip, which is this Singleton 19 Special Reliefs 2021. To be honest, I have never tried any of the Singleton lines, not even like the lower ones, and I've only vaguely heard of them. But the box, it really caught my eye. Kind of like a parakeet. So I know I like Speyside. I know I like Scotch. So I figured, what the heck. The Singleton 19 is the second oldest whiskey that was put out of the collection, which is part of the parent company Diageo's Smorgasbord as special releases for 2021. It includes other whiskeys like the Lagavulin 12, Lagavulin 26, Cardew 14, Oban 12, and a couple other ones. This one specifically is distilled by Glendullan and is a single malt from Speyside. It is mused by the story of a mermaid in Scotland who sang songs that drew in passerbys and were also, she touched flowers and ripe fruit grew. Sounds like a pretty cool superhero trait. Now, when it comes to the actual Scotch, one of the key aspects of it is that it is finished in Cognac Seasons cask and is produced at cask strength. So, it'll leave you singing like a mermaid if you end up finishing the bottle as well. Here at Costco, the Singleton 19 is priced at $145.99, which is pretty reasonable considering that if you find it at Bevmo, it'll come to around $179.99, or online, you can get it from the Whiskey Exchange, which is from the British, who has $166.12. But of course, that is before shipping and handling, any sort of tax and duties that go along with it. So, if you get it from the Whiskey Exchange, which they tend to have a lot of Scotch, it's probably going to end up being more than what it's costing at Bevmo. And you get it faster. You don't have to wait 6 months for it. Now, that being said, if you do end up getting it from Costco, then you would be saving around $20.13, or 12.12% off the untaxed Whiskey Exchange price. And the ABV on it, like I said, it's cask strength. It's pretty good, 56.1%, which makes probably this another whiskey to either start off or end the night with, but you don't want to fill in the middle of it with it. It'll be short. In the tasting notes mentioned sweet apples, vanilla cakes, honey, orange peel, and grassiness and clove. Also, it notes a hint of white pepper. So that all sounds really interesting, really, for sure. The reviews on it are pretty good, as you would expect from a $150 bottle of Scotch, but where that puts you in a relatively rarefied air for bourbon at $150. $150 for a bottle of Scotch is still sort of a middling level for the spirit. Yeah, I mean, it is expensive, but, the Scotch market is expansive, it's long-lived, it's competitive, and there's just lots and lots of Scotch in the marketplace. So, that's very expensive. So that $150 doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be great. But overall, it did get 86.49 points out of 100, which isn't that bad. But the scores, or the reviews, do mention that the score probably would have been higher. But there's just a hint of, I guess, a lemon zest that throws off the balance of the total palate. But to me, that seems like a bit of a cop-out. You know what? I think I'm just going to have to try this one and see how it goes. But either way, in conclusion, for me, it was a buy. I guess I got bamboozled by the mermaid too, right? Her siren song sucked me in, and I ended up getting this one as well. And if not for anything, it's going to look great behind the bar. It's got a cool-looking bottle. It's got a cool-looking box. And overall, it just seems really interesting. Sort of an unusual type of whiskey that could be a great thing to enjoy if you're looking for something that isn't always coloring inside the lines. All right, so that's it for Whiskey Wonders at the Costco Livermore. And again, I want to say thank you all who made it to the very end of the video. I really appreciate it. And it definitely helps out the algorithm and the YouTube and show it to more people and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for that. And you know what? I hope that you all remember that if you do see a whiskey you love, just buy it. Because if you don't, somebody else surely will, and it might even be me. So that's it for me today. I'm out, and adios.